Welcome to the season 2 finale. Now, let me start by saying there will not be a season 3, but I am not a quitter. And I don't have a give up sign on my desk. So I will be back, but I'm not going to do a season with a series of episodes. Instead, I'll do special episodes or breaking news updates periodically. So I would recommend that you subscribe, because if Xavier does something foolish, I will be on it, and it will be on YouTube, and you don't want to miss that. So today we are going to go full circle. We started season 1 with a very popular episode about Mrs. Neelam. So it's only fitting that we end season 2 with an episode about everyone's favorite fake cardiologist. Now, this episode for me is very different than the other episodes. This is probably the most personal and the most emotional episode. And I've avoided doing this episode for a while. I think Will wanted to do this as our second episode, but I just said, no, I'm not ready yet. I don't even know if I'm ready today, but ready or not, here it goes. I'm going to share with you my story, but keep in mind, my story is really just a small piece in the collective stories that so many of us share. You know, what happened to me is unique, but many of you can relate to this. The underlying theme here is that this school has done a lot of really disgusting things to harm others, and they always get away with it. Those responsible for regulating the school have completely failed us. I had a conversation with Gupta once, and he was laughing at me, and he said, Michelle, this school has gotten away with doing this stuff to people for years. Why do you think that that would ever change? Good point. So my story begins on my 3rd day of working at Xavier. Brumley, the librarian, invited me to lunch. And she was giving me the down low on how to survive at Xavier. Rule number 1, do not mess with Neelam. And Brumley shared these horror stories of excellent faculty who were dedicated to the school, who were fired without cause, simply because Neelam didn't like them or they disagreed with Neelam. So I took this to heart, and guess who I run into in the hallway just a few days later? Like, boom, fates collide. So initially, Mrs. Neelam and I had a really pleasant convo. And then I let it slip that I had been teaching statistics for years. And she got really excited. And she asked me, do you know Chromebox Alpha? If I could go back in time, I would have just lied and said, no, never heard of it, sorry. But in real life, I wanted to impress her. And I told her and bragged about all of the statistical knowledge that I had. I think I misunderstood what Brumley was trying to warn me about. I took Brumley's message as don't have a negative interaction with her. And what I didn't understand is that with Neelam, every interaction, no matter how positive you intend it to be, every interaction will turn into a negative interaction really fast. So I'm sitting there telling her how great I am at statistics and how much I could help her with statistics. And she's telling me that they're doing these faculty development projects. In other words, the accreditation site visitors were coming in a few weeks. So Xavier has to quickly brush everything under the rug and pretend to be a functional school. So Mrs. Neelam is doing her project on setting a passing score for the OSCE exam. This project requires a lot of statistical analysis, which she does not know how to do. So she suckered Prasad into helping her with the stats, but Prasad doesn't know what to do either. So this was now my job. And Mrs. Neelam, she gave me the data they collected. She gave me some published articles about the topic so I could understand the background. And she also gave me a draft of the method section she was working on. After I read these articles, I turn to her method section and it's deja vu because she plagiarized the method from a published article. So I meet with her and Prasad and I explain we need to rewrite the method section because what's currently there is copied word for word. And Neelam is like, what do you mean? I can't do that. Why can't I do that? Prasad steps up, thank you, Prasad, and says very sternly, ma'am, it's called plagiarism. It's not allowed. In the meantime, I am just stunned. Like, how does someone go through college, get a job as a college professor for years, and have no idea what plagiarism is and why it's wrong? And why does it take two of us to explain this to her? Yeah, so anyway, I help fix their method section. I write lots of results because the deal was to do Cronbach's alpha, but what she really needed were lots of tables and graphs and additional statistics. Like this was days of work that I had to put in for her. But when I finished, I was really proud of it. She was happy with it. And I thought, I am set at this job. Oh, I was wrong. Nope. Mrs. Neelam approaches me in the main office and she says, you did such a nice job with the stats. I want you to write the entire paper for me. I started laughing in her face because I thought she was making a joke. You know, like a humorous compliment, like, oh, you know, you're so good, you can do everything, ha ha ha. No, she was serious. That's the moment I learned Mrs. Neelam does not have sense of humor. FYI. So once I realized like she really is serious and she's expecting me to write everything, I said no. And, you know, explain, you know, I have a lot of work I have to do now. And I'm really happy I got to work with you on the statistics, but the writing that's left is writing that you can do really well on your own. And keep in mind, y'all, I was not hired to be Mrs. Neelam's ghostwriter. Like I had an actual job that I should have been doing. And instead of being appreciative of the work that I did do to help her, she became very vindictive. And I think the situation got worse because after I refused to write everything for her, Gupta was running around in a state of distress because he had not started his paper and he had no idea how to write it. He even went in and met with Dr. Maji, and the rumor is, so I've been told, Gupta asked, like, what's going to happen to me if I don't finish this paper? And Maji simply said, don't worry, the certificates of completion are already printed. But Gupta was still like freaking out. And so I'm like, you know what? Your project is actually really simple. I'll just do the whole thing for you. So I ended up writing the entire project for Gupta. And we had to present these projects in front of the whole faculty. And because Gupta was like completely uninvolved in his own project, I had to go up and present it with him. Like he couldn't even present it. He had no clue what was going on. Neelam though, Mrs. Neelam, we can all be proud of her. She presented this project on her own. Big girl. And then after we did our presentations, they gave out the certificates of completion. And this is what you can see in my background. Okay. Now, if you notice, there is someone who worked on 2 projects that's not in this photo. Me. And if you're wondering, why did they not give me a certificate of completion? The story I was told is that I arrived too late. That by the time I was hired, the projects had already been started, and so I didn't qualify. In the meantime, there's somebody in this picture that also arrived late after the project started. Gupta. So someone explain this to me. How does someone who arrives late and contributes to 2 projects and presentation not get the certificate? But someone who arrives late and does nothing is standing right there. I don't know the real answer. I can tell you my theory. My theory is that once I said, no, I'm not writing your whole paper, Mrs. Neelam decided you're not getting any credit then. And that is incredibly upsetting to me because I helped her. Like I had her back when she was down. And she didn't even have the basic decency to give credit where credit was due. Tells you a lot about a person. Now, the story is not over because I left Xavier. I was minding my own business, you all. I was actually getting the best revenge on them because you know the saying, success is the best revenge. So for about 8-9 months, I was productive, I was successful away from this school. And then in December 2020, hot off the press, we get a peer-reviewed, quote, journal article authored by Neelam and Prasad and a bunch of other people that had nothing to do with this OSCE project. My name is nowhere on this authorship list. Even though when you look at the writing, the most significant contribution to this paper came from me. Now, let me just point out, putting my name and giving me credit where credit is due would not have taken away from Neelam at all. Like, it's not like it's either me or her that's on the publication. You can put both of us there. You can do the right thing and be honest. And everyone can get the credit they deserve, but that's not how things are run here. So I emailed the journal and asked them to investigate this article for ethics violations. Now, initially I thought that this was a pretty credible journal because the publisher is Sage. But this journal is, from what I've discovered, not a legit journal. If you look at impact factor, which is like the way to judge the quality of a journal, these journals on this list have the highest impact factors. This is not where Neelam published. The journal that Neelam published with is in this category of others. And if you look in this category of others, the journal that they published with is the only one that demands that you pay them to have your article published. And on their website, the publication fee is $1,355. Now, they say that they vigorously peer review every article, but if we look at the article itself that Neelam supposedly wrote, she's not just a medical doctor and a DO, she's a statistician now. But they tell us that this article was received on November 19th and it was accepted on November 25th. No one peer reviewed this article in 6 days. 6 days is about the time it takes to cash Ravi's check and make sure it's cleared and then hit the congratulations, you're a published author button. And there's a lot of mistakes in this article that a peer reviewer should have caught. In fact, the article wasn't even copy edited. Like right here, look at this. Look how they spelled received. And this is not just one example, like this article is just littered with mistakes that someone that just did a simple copy edit should have caught before they put it out for the world to see. So I didn't have a lot of faith that this journal was going to help, and they didn't. I asked them to investigate for plagiarism. Their response to that was that when two authors disagree, the school gets to decide. So since Xavier was not going to decide in my favor, I asked the journal, could you at least put an asterisk to indicate that the authorship is in dispute? Didn't reply. The other thing I asked the journal to investigate is that there are fake statistical data in this article. I don't know what happened, but apparently they wanted to add something and I had already left. So they just literally made it up. And it's pretty blatant. Like I said, if it had been peer reviewed, a peer reviewer would have caught it because the statistics and the numbers that they're reporting just make no sense. The journal's response to that is they were going to issue a correction. They told me that months ago. It's not corrected. Like, what kind of journal allows authors to make up fake data and not even correct it for a year? This is December 2020. And the fake data is still in this article. And then the final problem is that the Neelam et al. Claim that informed consent was obtained from the participants. Who were the participants? Xavier students in the summer of 2019 and the spring of 2019. If you were there in spring and summer 2019, did you sign a form to give them permission to use your OSCE scores for the purpose of research? If not, your rights as a research participant were violated. And even worse, they lied in a publication and said they obtained that consent from you. This is something that the journal has completely ignored. They've never given me an answer on this complaint that I filed. And this is probably, of the three things I brought up, this is probably the most serious to violate the rights of a research participant. And it's also probably the easiest for them to investigate. Because if you say you've obtained consent, you either have the forms or you don't. Never investigate it, never checked if Xavier had those forms or not. So when things did not go well with the journal, I went above them to the Committee on Publication Ethics and said, the journal, like, I have these complaints, the journal's not answering them. And COPE said, well, we only get involved after a journal makes a decision. So I said, well, what if the journal avoids handling ethical violations by avoiding making a decision? No reply. So I tolerated a lot of abuse at this school. And I left. And for 8 months later, for them to still be exploiting and using and abusing me, no. You know, it's not so much that I was denied a publication, because I don't really want my name on this. I don't want my name associated with these people. The part that hurts me is more personal. I helped you. I had your back when you needed help. And you used me and you exploited me. And if you're going to do this to me, you will do it to students and you will do it to faculty and you will not stop doing it. So I've come to accept I'm not going to get justice for this whole like plagiarism, research ethics issue. But what I can do, and I have a right to do, is speak the truth. And I've spoken my truth in 17 YouTube episodes over the last 3 months. 6,500 views and counting from 13 different countries. And the profile picture for this channel, if you've paid attention to that, is a quote. And it says, "Never worry about who will be offended if you speak the truth. Worry about who will be misled, deceived, and destroyed if you don't."